What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Dynasty, brought to you by the League FFB. I appreciate each and every one of you guys for tapping in with us here on this Sunday night. It's weird, man. There's no football anymore, so Sunday nights, I guess you're going to have to fill that space with episodes of Let's Talk Dynasty. I see we got everybody in the building. Dylan, first guy in here, he says, here we go. Appreciate you being here, Dylan. Caleb, appreciate you. Johnny, appreciate you. We got a good show for you guys here tonight, so hopefully you guys are excited. I got 10 questions that you guys submitted to us via Discord, X, Instagram, anything you can think of. We got the questions from you guys. We're going to be answering them today. Caleb says camera is crispy. Appreciate you, Caleb. But you guys know, and I know that I'm probably not the one that you guys are here for. If it was not Let's Talk Dynasty, we wouldn't be introducing this guy. But we can't have Let's Talk Dynasty without my co-host. So let's bring him in the building. MFGDs, a.k.a. my boy War. How you doing tonight, man?
You giving me way too much credit right now, Drew.
Hey, look, man. We're the perfect tag team duo. You got the entertainment. I got the analytics. That is the way that this thing rolls. And look, man, we wouldn't have the entertainment factor here without you. Dylan says RIP, should have submitted a question. We got you next time, Dylan. It's in the Discord. The Discord is really where you'll get the information for that. So if you're not in the Discord, Dylan, go join that Discord. It is free to join. But War, we got 10 questions tonight. I think we're going to go through each of them probably in a little bit of detail. Let's help these people out. But you have the questions. I have the questions. Do you think we should just get into it, or should we talk a little bit about some of the news? Because there's two pieces of news, I think, really, that just happened. The first one being T. Higgins. He was franchise tagged or rumored to be getting franchise tagged. I think a lot of people's favorite free agent of this cycle at the wide receiver room was probably T. Higgins. How do you think that affects Dynasty Fantasy Football? And what do you think about T. Higgins, knowing that he's still going to be in Cincinnati? I think we got you muted somehow. Try it again. It's a shame, guys. It's a shame. Nothing. Got nothing from you. Well, we got some technical difficulties here, guys. So I guess while War is trying to figure it out, what I will do, and here, I'll do this for you, War. Try it again. You may have to leave and come back in. I can get you back in after you leave. But I'll tell you guys how I feel about the T. Higgins signing. So for me right now, I think T. Higgins, and sorry for the technical difficulties, guys. It's not always like this. It's sometimes like this. We're still amateur YouTubers. It is what it is. But it's sometimes like that. So you guys get how it is. I appreciate you dealing with us through the technical difficulties. But I think T. Higgins going back to the Cincinnati Bengals, I think it's kind of just expect what we should have expected, right? Like the franchise tag is used as a tool. We know that talented players like T. Higgins. We know talented players like Michael Pittman Jr. Michael Pittman Jr. is about to hit the free agent market. I bet he doesn't actually, because they franchise tag him. It's a tool that they use to make sure that their talented players don't go hit the open market. They don't lose them for virtually nothing. So I think we should be viewing T. Higgins the same. I saw a couple people in leagues today trying to buy low on T. Higgins in the idea that he was just barely going back to Cincinnati. And we got you back, War.
Please tell me you can hear me.
I can hear you.
Yeah, for some reason, the AirPods went to microphone. It went into business for itself.
All right.
Yeah, so we back now. We back.
All right. Well, I was just saying that I think it should have been expected. Usually talented players don't get the free agent market right away. I mean, we've seen it happen. I said this probably a similar thing that's going to happen to Michael Pittman Jr. What do you feel?
I think that there's a lot of expectations between the fantasy community that maybe you can get T. Higgins to a place where he could possibly be the number one option. But the Bengals brought him back, which I think is definitely a huge luxury to have T. Higgins back in the building. It does take a hit, his fantasy value, in terms of like those who thought that he might get his chance to be the number one guy, not behind Ja'Marr Chase. But I mean, I think as long as he can stay healthy, he'll still put up good numbers as long as him and Burrow are both healthy.
Yeah, look, man, it's probably going to be – there's two things that can happen here. I don't really expect them to get a long-term extension done, especially with the extension of Ja'Marr Chase looming. With that being said, although the cap did go up this year, so there's a lot more cap space now. Thank you, Taylor Swift, for the views. That did help the cap space, so thank you, Taylor. These guys now get paid handsomely because of that. But with that being said, I don't know if he's going to get a long-term extension done. There's rumors that this could potentially be a tag and trade situation where Cincinnati's going to be able to get some value back by just tagging him and trading him to a team. Not really sure if that's a possibility. I guess it is a possibility, but more than anything, I think we should just be resuming operating with T. Higgins as a wide receiver 2 in Cincinnati. I think that's just what it is right now. So chances are you're not buying him for more expensive than that price anyway. So I don't think anything changes. But the other piece of news is you sent it to me, and I'm not laughing. I'm not laughing at this. You sent it to me before the show. Cam Newton got jumped at his camp, his youth camp. Is that a youth camp that he got jumped at?
I'm laughing at it. Okay, you don't got to laugh. I'm going to laugh at it. Cam Newton and all of his top hat got jumped at his own camp. Like that, oh my goodness gracious. How funny of a sentence is that? He's wearing a top hat and he's getting jumped by kids. I don't know. I don't know. It was hilarious to me.
He looked pretty unfazed, to be honest. Like, I mean, it's Cam Newton's what, 6'5", 250? It's pretty hard to get this guy,
like he's
man.
huge. He's a huge human being.
So I don't know. He looked pretty unfazed, but it is what it is. But again, that's not what we're here for today. We're here to answer some Dynasty fantasy football questions. So War, I got them loaded up. We got 10 of them. Like I said, we'll start off with a question submitted to us by Griff in the Discord, submitted via the Discord. So if you want to submit trades for future videos, you want to submit questions, anything like that, go to the Discord. It's linked in the description. But the question is, and he says, I would love to hear your guys' favorite approaches to a new Dynasty startup. I've only ever taken over other people's teams and would love to hear some advice on doing a full startup draft from the beginning. So, with that being said, War, do you have any favorite strategies in Dynasty startups right now?
Me personally, in a Dynasty startup, and you know what? I can't sit here and say that, oh, yeah, this is going to be the winning move. But what I like to do, I want to make sure I grab 2 quarterbacks early, assuming it's super flex, which is usually a strategy in a lot of things. Grab 2 quarterbacks early. But it's Dynasty, so you can either pair a veteran. What I like to do, I like to pair a guy who's kind of been in the league, good base, who's going to put up some consistent numbers for you. And I try to pair him with a very young quarterback. That's what I like to do. So you kind of have your 1 foot and win now, 1 foot and win later. Because even in a startup, you shouldn't go into it like, okay, let me get the youngest team possible and let me start plan to rebuild in year 1. You want to go out there and win the damn thing. So I definitely would try to go with the 2 quarterback model and try to have somebody's younger or someone's a little bit older, a little more seasoned.
Yeah, I agree with that for the most part. Funny enough, though, I would say that there is a strategy that I have implemented in the past that I do like, but I haven't done it enough to recommend it to everybody. But I do like it in the short amount of times that I've done it. But I would say typically my strategy for the most part in Dynasty startups is usually through those first 4 or 5 rounds. We're assuming that these are super flex leagues. That's what you and I play in, War. That's pretty much what we talk about most of the time on this show. So super flex leagues, I like to, in those first 4 or 5 rounds, stack up on young quarterbacks, elite quarterbacks, and young wide receivers. So what I'm doing is I'm probably, like you said, coming in the first round, you're going to go get a guy like Lamar, a guy like Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow. You want to grab one of those guys. Hell, if you're getting to the top of the first round, you're going to be able to get a guy like Josh Allen. That's what you're wanting to do. Then in that second, hopefully you can get a guy, in this year's class, I guess technically you could get like a Caleb Williams in the second round. You could get a Kyler Murray, a Trevor Lawrence. If you could do something like that in the second round, that's good. Then 3, 4, 5, you can really pair up like A.J. Brown, a Puka Nacua, a Garrett Wilson. You could start pairing these guys up with even some other young guys in this class, like a Malik Neighbors or things like that. Once you get to that point, I do like being able to kind of take a couple shots on mid-round tight ends. Last year in the mid-rounds, you probably could have got a pairing of Trey McBride, Cole Kmet, Evan Engram, David Njoku. If you were pairing those guys together, you probably had some pretty good tight end play out of your tight end room, and it didn't cost you a lot in startups. And then obviously, most of the time I'm punting that running back room for the most part because it's pretty easy to find those replacements in Kyren Williams, in Gus Edwards, in things like that throughout the season. So you punt that a little bit deeper. But the other strategy that I was talking about is that productive struggle strategy. And in that productive struggle, really what you're trying to do is you're trying to set yourself up to be a dynasty, like a powerhouse team years 2, 3, 4 down the road. But what you're going to do in that first year, in that startup, if you're allowed trading in the dynasty startup, and I wouldn't recommend this if you're new to dynasty. So if you're new to dynasty, don't do this. It's really hard to judge the values. But if you're a little bit experienced, you have some experience in dynasty fantasy football, you can trade your first round pick in the dynasty startup. You're not going to get a Josh Allen. You're not going to get a Pat Mahomes. But what you're going to be able to get for that first round pick in a startup is probably a second round startup pick, a fourth round startup pick, and a future first round rookie pick. You start adding all this talent, this young talent. Because think, in your second round, you're going to get Kyler Murray and Trevor Lawrence. If you have two of those guys, one Pat Mahomes, I think majority of the time, two of those guys are going to outscore Pat Mahomes. But Pat Mahomes is a little bit more fun to have. But you start adding that value. You get a lot of value in those rounds 2 through 7 and load up on future rookie picks. And what you're doing, too, is you're also buying guys who are maybe valued pretty low right now, guys who are injured. I think a guy who would be really good for productive struggle right now would be like a TJ Hawkinson. He's young, but he's probably going to miss the majority or the first half of the 2024 season. So you're drafting a good, talented, really elite player on your team, but he's not going to score any points for you going into this season. So you're going to be able to get a higher draft pick in the future. So that productive struggle, that's another one that I would like to do a little bit more often. The few times that I've done it, I've built some really, really good teams. In fact, Ward, that team that we play in Gamblers, where I have Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Justin Jefferson, Trevor Lawrence, like Trey McBride, Sam Laporta, Mark Andrews. That team was a productive struggle startup draft. And it just turned out that it was a very, very good team. And so I liked it. We'll see if I can do it more this offseason. But that would be the two strategies that I would say I typically do. What do you think?
Hey, the productive struggle strategy, that sounds kind of nice.
Hey, you basically go and you say, hey, I'm not trying to win this year. You know, if my team's good enough, my team's good enough, but I'm not trying to win this year. But I'm trying to find a bunch of value. And that's what you do in that startup.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's our first question. Appreciate you, Griff, for submitting that in the Discord. Now we do have our second question. This is coming from Dalton over on Twitter. What Dalton says, he says, we have a super flex league. I have the 104 and the 101, and I'm taking Marvin Harrison at number 1. I need a quarterback. I could sit at the 104 and get Drake Maye or Jayden Daniels, but I'm not a huge fan of taking a rookie when my QB room right now is CJ Stroud, Will Levis, and Bryce Young. Is Kyler Murray a reasonable target with the 104? So how do you feel about trading your 104 for Kyler Murray instead of drafting Jayden Daniels or Drake Maye?
I'm not doing it.
Why not?
And I'm also not. That's okay. So here's my whole thing with this question. I look at Will Levis and I look at Bryce Young. Like, just for the sake of this question, Andrew, how would you rank, for the sake of this question, Will Levis, Bryce Young, Jayden Daniels, and Drake Maye?
Right now, I'm probably ranking it without knowing landing spots for the two rookies. I'm going to go Jayden Daniels, Drake Maye, Bryce Young, Will Levis.
So here's my question. Now, the overall question Kyler for rookie one? No, that's the answer to the question. But then my follow-up would be, can I move Bryce or Will Levis? And I don't know what the other picks are, but like you move that with another piece and get either Kyler or a different quarterback, because you never know. Like 1 point, I feel like 1-4 is just so valuable. Like I wouldn't trade 1-4 for Kyler. I don't know about you.
Yeah, man. I think for me, I wouldn't be trading that 104 yet. I would say hold on to it for 2 more weeks. In 2 weeks, when that NFL Combine is done, people have ran 40s. Everybody's gotten really excited about these draft picks. I think that 104 is going to gain some value. And who knows? Maybe you can catch a sucker and get him for more than Kyler Murray if they're really excited about that 104.
Yeah.
Now, I would say in a bubble, just knowing what we know about his team, obviously we don't know anything about his wide receivers. We don't know anything about his running backs. We don't know how he finished last year. He just gave us a quarterback room and said, would you do the 104 for Kyler Murray? I would trade my 104 for Kyler Murray. I think I prefer Kyler Murray over Jayden Daniels and Drake Maye today. But with that being said, I don't know if I'm doing that today. That's the only thing. And why I want to know why you're covering your face. Is it because we're on totally different sides of the coin here?
It's because love is blind. Love is blind.
What, I like Kyler too much?
Yeah, man, you've always loved Kyler. And well, I think that.
Go ahead.
I think that I think your love is blind to you here.
I just look at it the way that they're being drafted in startups right now. Right now in startups, that rookie 104 is a 3rd-round pick in startup drafts. Kyler Murray is a 2nd-round pick. That's an upgrade in value. So technically, right now in startup drafts currently being held, where you are drafting those rookie picks as kickers, Kyler Murray is going above the 104. So I think if you can do that, that's probably a good move for you to do. I also think Kyler Murray has top 7 quarterback potential at the fantasy football quarterback position. And with that being said, he said his plan is to draft Marvin Harrison with the 101. He doesn't want to go Caleb Williams. He doesn't want to go one of those other guys at 101. He wants Marvin Harrison. And if that is the case, what is the likely chance that Marvin Harrison falls in Arizona with Kyler Murray, and then you trade the 104 for Kyler Murray, you get the Marvin Harrison Jr. and the Kyler Murray stack? Kind of like the sound of that on my fantasy football roster.
I do. I'm definitely more in lockstep with you about the idea of possibly getting Kyler plus for 1-4.
Yeah, Caleb says I'm spitting facts. He says little man type of love over here from me too. So
see, man, you and Caleb, y'all love Kyler too much, man. Too much.
Look, man, you know what? It tells me a lot that Brenden's been buying Kyler Murray in pretty much every league this year. It tells me a lot about Kyler Murray, because he doesn't like Kyler Murray at all, but he's buying him. But with that said, man, that's kind of how I feel about it. I think I understand not wanting to go get a huge or to go grab a quarterback at the 104 if you have Young, Levis, and who's the other quarterback that he says he has? CJ Stroud. Yeah. So, I mean, you loaded up on rookie quarterbacks last year. I get if you want to get a vet in there and get Kyler Murray. I think it's good value. It just depends on your team, I guess, how you want to go from there. But I would suggest holding that 104 for a couple more weeks until the combine's finished.
I agree.
All right, man. Well, we're going over to our third question. This one is coming in from Edwin, submitted via the Discord. He says in his question, I have no idea what direction to take my team. I have Bryce and Deshaun Watson, and I have the 101. It is a 1 quarterback league, not a super flex league, a 1 quarterback league. Should I take Caleb Williams? That's the question. How do you feel about a QB room? And I have the roster right here, so I'll open up the roster.
Yeah, I need to see that.
Here's the roster. I'll just read it down for the starters that he has right now. Teams, honestly, it's not that good, War. I'll be honest. And it's no shade to you, Edwin, but he has Bryce Young, Nick Chubb, Chase Edmonds, Garrett Wilson, Jahan Dotson, Christian Watson, Kyle Pitts, Paris Campbell, Curtis Samuel, Devontae Parker, Jarrett Stidham, Then he has Mike White, Trey Sermon, Michael Gallup, MVS, Mecole, Lil Jordan Humphrey. And you know what? The more that I'm looking at this, actually, one of those flexes has Jarrett Stidham in it. So it is a super flex league. So I think that totally changes the way that I'm going about this question. He says he has the 101. It is not a one quarterback war. This is a super flex league. I read it wrong when I put together the graphic. Are you taking Caleb Williams 101 if you have Bryce and Deshaun Watson?
You know what? I have Bryce and Deshaun Watson. Here's what I would do. And this completely depends on your league mates and who they have ranked what. If there's a guy in your league who would give you more, and this might be crazy, Andrew's probably going to disagree with me. If he'll give you more to move down a couple spots, because my brother, you need everything. You need everything, my brother. You need it all. You need it all. Trade down a couple spots. Go low enough to still draft either Drake Maye or the LSU kid. His name slips my name, even though I know his
Jayden.
name. I said Jayden Daniels. Get one of those guys, but get more because you need everything. You need it all.
I'm so glad you said that because as soon as I was reading through that roster and I realized that Jarrett Stidham was sitting there in a flex spot, I was like, you know what? We cannot play around on this team. This is a team where he says he doesn't know the direction to take the team. That 101, this is what I'm doing. Again, we are holding that early draft pick for a few more weeks. We're not making this move today.
Yep.
We don't make this move today, Edwin. But what we're going to do is we are going to trade back on that 101. We're going to wait until somebody sees Caleb Williams at the combine. They see him make some off-tempo throws. They see him at his pro day over there at USC, and he's throwing a sidearm pass down the sideline to Brenden Rice, and everybody's going crazy. Oh, Caleb Williams is the next Pat Mahomes. We love Caleb Williams. That's when you trade the 101. And you're going to go to the guy who has the 104. You're going to go to the guy who has the 103. It's going to be one of those two picks that you go for. And if you really want to be safe, you go to the guy who has the 103. And you say, hey, take this, give me a future first-round pick, a first-round pick in 2025, or give me a wide receiver 2 on your roster and, a second-round pick in 2025. And take this, move down, you take, like War said, Drake Maye or Caleb Williams, and you get the extra assets thrown in on top. You can then take that 2025 first and trade that for a wide receiver or a package of a wide receiver and a running back. You start building some depth and some good upside around this roster, because what you have right now is a roster that looks like you are either in the middle of a rebuild or you're a roster that should be considering a rebuild at this point. And I think getting the most value here, trading within that tier, because the reality is, I know we all love Caleb Williams, but if we were to put a probability of these guys being successful, I'd say everybody has a 50-50 chance. Every single body has a 50-50 chance. So if you can get Jayden Daniels or you can get Drake Maye at the same 50-50 chance that Caleb Williams is, and you get the extra value on top, just do it. I know we probably all want Caleb Williams, but you have the luxury of trading back and gaining extra value. That's probably what I'm doing with this team.
Right on the head.
And I see we got Roland here. He says, you got to take Marv there. Bryce still has tons of potential. I think so if it was one QB, but we realized in the middle of that take that it wasn't a one quarterback league, because I had in my notes, if it was one QB, I just take Marv. But because it is super flex, we're trading back. We're going to take Jayden Daniels, Drake Maye, and move on. So with that being said, he's in the chat tonight. Shout out Caleb. Caleb says, submitted a question over on X. Speaking of Marvin Harrison, where does Marv fit in your dynasty wide receiver rankings? Where are you currently plugging in Marvin Harrison Jr. amongst these NFL wide receivers, War? To me, he's my wide receiver 5. That's where I'll start considering him. And I'm not going to take Marvin Harrison Jr. over Justin Jefferson. I'm not taking him over Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown. At that point, I'll start hearing the argument for Marvin Harrison Jr. I could hear the argument of Marvin Harrison over Puka Nacua. I could hear the argument of Marvin Harrison over Garrett Wilson, over A.J. Brown. That's kind of where I can hear the argument. Now, We don't know anything about the landing spot. We don't know anything about the quarterback he's playing with. We don't know any of that stuff. So it's tough to say, but that's where I would start hearing the argument is as high as wide receiver 5, but I cannot put him any higher than wide receiver 5. You cannot put Marvin Harrison Jr. in that tier with Amon-Ra, St. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Ja'Marr Chase, Justin Jefferson. Can't do it. And you seem shocked when I said 5.
I'm taking Marvin Harrison Jr. third.
Oh, okay. All right. I thought you were going the other way. So you're taking him
taking him
Amon-Ra?
I'm scared, but I'm taking him above CD. But I'm scared doing it. Like, I might change my mind, but I'm 100% taking him over Amon-Ra. I'm 100% taking him over Amon-Ra. Marvin Harrison, I'm going to tell you, hands down, Marvin Harrison Jr. is the best receiver, not just receiver, player in this draft. He's a generational wide receiver, and he should already be considered amongst the same ilk as Ja'Marr Chase. When Ja'Marr Chase came out, people were automatically putting him in that same tier that these other guys are in. Like, not necessarily, but like, for example, they put him amongst like the top 3 or 4. And I think Marvin Harrison deserves that same respect. I think he should be put up there. He should be put up there with CD, with CD, JJ, and Jahmyr. Amon-Ra, it's not so much knocking one of those guys down a tier. It's just that a new player is joining that tier. And I like him more than Amon-Ra. Like, if I had Amon-Ra on my team and someone said, hey, do you want the number 1 pick in the draft, in a rookie draft? I'm going to ask, can I get a little bit more? But I'm pulling the trigger on that one. I'm pulling the trigger on that one. So, yeah, man, I got him up there, Caleb. I got him up there.
Fair enough. I have him 5. You have him 3. But it sounds like for the most part, you feel like you're drafting a guy in Marvin Harrison Jr. later this spring that is coming in to be a difference maker for your dynasty rosters. That's what it sounds like. And my question for you, War, is because I talked about this with the BDG guys over when we had a podcast the other day. What we talked about was, is there a situation in super flex leagues where you are considering Daniels or Maye over Marvin Harrison Jr.? Is there a situation for that? Say Jayden Daniels lands in Atlanta at 8. Do you take him?
Hell no. I'm not taking Drake, Maye, or I'm not taking the rapper Drake. I ain't taking Drake. I ain't taking no type of Drake over Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't care. I ain't taking none
Drake.
of the Jadens over Marvin Harrison Jr. either. Ain't nowhere. Look, they could land Jayden Daniels and Drake Maye on the moon, and I'm not taking them over Marvin Harrison Jr. No, absolutely not. 100%. There may be, based on roster construction, I might do it for Caleb, but even that sounds crazy to me. Even that sounds crazy. No, matter of fact, I wouldn't take Caleb over him either. Like, yeah, no, absolutely not.
Fair enough. I think there's a situation, but I don't know. Superflex the quarterback. I just think if Jayden Daniels goes out, and I'm not saying that this is what I would do, but I think that there is a situation where people would do it, is Jayden Daniels goes out to the NFL Combine later this week. It's next weekend, right? Next weekend is the NFL Combine. He goes out there. He runs a 4.4 40. He goes out there and he throws the ball all around the field. He looks good. The deep ball is accurate, things like that. People are going to be like, oh, shit, this guy, he's fast. He can run. He threw 50 touchdowns in college at LSU. And then all of a sudden, what if he gets picked? A team like Atlanta does trade up, like the situation that we saw with Anthony Richardson, where the Colts, they end up going up and they get they didn't trade up, but they ended up going number 3 and they take Anthony Richardson after he had that hell of a combine. What if the Falcons trade up and they go say, hey, we need Jayden Daniels? Or what if the Vikings trade up? This is a pipe dream for me, but what if the Vikings trade up and they go get Jayden Daniels and now he's throwing to Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison? Now all of a sudden I'm like, hell yeah, get me Jayden Daniels at the 102 or even maybe the 101.
Okay. When you put it like that, I do see a scenario where you would take Jayden Daniels over Marvin Harrison Jr. Like, I don't care who's on. I don't care who. Like, let's okay. I really do believe. I really do believe that if the Vikings got Jayden Daniels and you were in the draft, and someone said, "Hey Andrew, I'll trade you Patrick Mahomes for that," you will probably, but you will pause. It wouldn't be just no like slam dunk pressing the button. You'll be like, like it wouldn't just be no slam dunk choice.
Don't play me like this. Look, I got a heart for the guys in purple and gold, but I don't make stupid dynasty moves. That's not what I do. I'm not reactive. But I guess you could probably pull receipts of me making stupid dynasty moves. Anyways, we all have them. But with that being said, man, I just really want my Vikings. If we're not going to re-sign Kirk Cousins, I want us to move on up and get a Drake Maye or a Jayden Daniels. That's what I want. But I can keep dreaming. Likely scenarios, we probably just re-sign Kirk Cousins. That's probably what happens. Or we sit back and take J.J. McCarthy, and who knows what that turns into. Anyways, whatever. I'm not going to sit here and talk about the Vikings. Question 5. At least it's Kirk Cousins on a rookie contract. But anyways, question 5. Submitted by Cortrix via the YouTube comments. He says, who are your favorite rookies going in rounds 3 or 4 in rookie drafts? So, War, I have the ADP. I sent you the ADP. Interested to hear a couple names. I have a ton of names that I like, but I know you have a few names that you like. So tell me the names that you like in these 3rd and 4th rounds.
Well, I will tell you one name that sticks out to me above others, Brenden Rice. Okay. You know what? Okay, now I get it. The weapons that Caleb had, everybody talks bad about the weapons that Caleb had. But the guy went out there and he did his thing. And I'm just interested to see if it's one of those cases where a guy maybe didn't show as much in college that he could show in the NFL, depending on team, obviously, who's the quarterback, like what they're going to do. Like, I'll be the first to admit to you guys, Andrew dives in on late round rookies way earlier than I do. And I still got some research to do on a lot of these guys, but he is one that definitely stood out to me. And that's definitely one of the ones that interests me.
Okay. Roll is in here. He says Rattler sticks out to him, and he's on my list, Spencer Rattler. So I'll put it together. I said this class in general is very deep, especially in your super flex leagues. And I know we got Dylan in here who says the 209's odd for those 1 QB rookie drafts. So 1 QB, it's probably a little bit different. It's not as deep because the quarterback position is so good in this year's class. You have probably 6 quarterbacks that are going to be in the first 2 rounds of this rookie draft in your super flex leagues. And so for me in the 3rd round, guys like Jatavian Sanders out of Texas sticks out at tight end. I don't think he'll be in the 3rd round, though, if you play in a tight end premium. But if you're not in a tight end premium, Jatavian Sanders sticks out. Jalen Polk from Washington. Marshawn Lloyd from USC, the running back. Spencer Rattler's on there. I had Brenden Rice on my list as well. Malachi Corley is on my list. But to me, I think if I had to pick a favorite of those guys, JT Sanders is probably there, but let's take him out of that list because I think he's going to go a little bit higher than the 3rd round. I think we're getting a little ahead of ourselves thinking he'll go. He's 301 in ADP right now, but I don't think he'll be there after the NFL Combine. My favorite in the 3rd round is Malachi Corley. Love Malachi Corley. He reminds me of every single bit of a Jayden Reed, Deebo Samuel type of wide receiver, a guy that has a little bit of a better route tree than he showed on tape in college. He was primarily a screen guy, a slant guy, but and people are probably looking at Malachi Corley and they're saying he's playing at a smaller school. He didn't play a lot of good talent, but I'll tell you what, the talent that he played against, he made him look like little boys. Like Malachi Corley looked like a grown man playing against little kids. And that tells you that he probably has the talent to play at the NFL level. Also, when he went out to the Senior Bowl, he looked really good at the Senior Bowl, and all of those guys are going to be NFL guys. So I think Malachi Corley, he's one of my favorites in the 3rd round. I will say, and Roll says he's just listing names, Frank Gore Jr. and Ray Davis. And that brings me to my 4th round, because in the 4th round, I have Ray Davis as one of my guys. So there you are, Roll out of Kentucky. Now, I do like Ricky Pearsall out of Florida. He's really good. Jacob Cowing from Arizona, Jermaine Burton, Jalen McMillan. But to me, I think in the 4th round, my favorite, if I had to stamp it right now, it's going to be between 2 guys, Ray Davis, running back out of Kentucky, or Ricky Pearsall out of Florida. I think Ricky Pearsall, he is a great wide receiver. He does everything really, really well. Good route runner, plays stronger than probably most people think he is when they see the statistics. They put the height, the weight. They probably think he's not as strong as he is, but he's good at the catch point, runs routes really well. Like I said, he's a really fit wide receiver. And to be honest, I recently saw a video too where Steve Smith was giving Ricky Pearsall some props. And if Steve Smith is saying that you're good, you're probably pretty damn good. So
Probably good.
I will say those are my 2 favorites in the 3rd round. Malachi Corley in the 4th round, Ricky Pearsall. Those are my guys right now. Ray Davis, honorable mention. But yeah, those are my favorite late round rookies. That's probably a little bit more deep than we needed to go right now, but I wanted to give you names. So whatever. But all right, man.
This how you learn. This how you learn.
That's how you learn. And look, I'm deep in the mud right now. I'm deep in the mud in the rookies. So
this man, let me let y'all behind the curtain. This man, I kid you not, he'd be like 2 years ahead. His assessment of I don't even want to say rookies. They ain't rookies yet. He be knowing about people 2 years early.
Like college freshman.
Yeah, man. So
I remember one of my favorite ones that I ever did, and it's only favorite because it hit so well. But I remember like 3 years ago, tweeting and texting Brenden and texting you guys and saying like, dude, there's this running back at Georgia Tech. There's this running back there, and a lot of people don't know who he is, but I really like him. His name is Jahmyr Gibbs. And then he transferred to Alabama, and then he went to the NFL. And I remember even on our NFL draft live stream, I was like, dude, Jahmyr Gibbs got drafted this high. Like, no way Jahmyr Gibbs got drafted. And then you guys were telling me, like, dude, he went to the Lions, bro. Like, we're not even like, we don't even like that he goes to the Lions.
At the time, that sounded that was real bad. I was like, oh man, Kerryon Johnson. Like, yeah, I remember.
It was pretty damn good, and it looked like it hit. But anyways, guys, before we go on to the back half, we have 5 more questions for you, and we'll go through the back half a little bit quicker than we went through the first half. I do have something for you guys from our sponsors of today's show. So that is going to be Underdog Fantasy. You guys know over at Underdog Fantasy, you can play the Pick'ems. And on the Pick'ems, if you sign up using code LEAGUEFFB, they are going to give you a freebie mystery special. So what they are offering you guys tonight and tomorrow is De'Aaron Fox to score 1 point. If De'Aaron Fox scores 1 point, you guys will win your pick'em play. I will say there's a couple plays that I want to pair with this one. The first one, his teammate Malik Monk going over 2 3-pointers. I also like in the same game, Kawhi Leonard over 2 3-pointers as well. If you guys pair all those together, I can almost guarantee, and this is a unwritten guarantee, just so you guys know, I'm not guaranteeing you anything for financial gains and financial loss purposes. I am not liable for anything that you guys do over on Underdog Fantasy. Now, just kidding. But I do like those plays. You guys can probably win some money on those ones. If you play in any of these states right here, the yellow states, you are eligible to play. The gray states, unfortunately, you guys probably cannot play pick'ems, but you can do the best ball drafts with us that we do over here on the channel. So again, if you guys want to sign up for Underdog Fantasy, if you want to play on Underdog Fantasy, use code LEAGUEFFB when you sign up. They will give you a 100% deposit match up to $100 and that free mystery pick'em special. So, War, we are back. We are back. And the next question here is, I had to cover my ass. I was not about to guarantee you guys you were going to win money on the play. I can't guarantee you. I can't guarantee it. I'm sorry. As much as I want to and as confident as I feel about it, I can't guarantee it. So it is what it is. I had to cover my ass. Question 6, submitted by Johnny Detroit via the Discord. 12-team start 10 best ball league, Superflex, PPR, no tight end premium. Says the inbox offers Ja'Marr Chase for his 103, 109, and the 201. He sent us his team. He says the team needs everything. It's a bad roster. Aiden O'Connell, Chris Rodriguez, Xavier Hutchinson, Michael Wilson, A.T. Perry. This roster is really bad. Izzy Abanikanda starting. Clyde Edwards-Helaire starting.
Yeah.
My advice is you cannot trade for Jahmyr Chase. You don't even have the infrastructure to support a Jahmyr Chase.
No.
Now, I will say, because this is a best ball league, you having the 101, the 103, the 104, the 105, the 108, the 109, the 201, these are the draft picks that he has. You can build a roster around this. And in best ball, you don't even set the lineup. So you just want as many shots and as many bites at that apple as possible. I say you can't make the trade for Jahmyr Chase, but you got the draft picks that you can put together a decent roster this year.
I mean, there's not too much to add to this. Andrew is 100% on. I feel I have the exact same sentiment when I seen his roster. Maybe even in a couple of your first, you could even move down. Like, I feel like you need tons. You need tons. Like
he said Sleeper has the starters on the bench. So I guess on the bench, he said that there is JSN, Garrett Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, and Kirk Cousins. But still, it's not a very deep roster.
No. Now, so, me knowing that you have those guys, it makes me feel more comfortable now with you just drafting in those spots instead of like trading down, because now I see you at least have a few more of those guys. So I definitely like as awesome as Jahmyr Chase is, like as cool as he is, as great as he is, like I think that you'll be better well served just drafting at those picks, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, again, like you said, as good as Jahmyr Chase is in a best ball league where you are not setting lineups, it is putting the best lineup in there for you every week. I think having the ability to have a Jayden Daniels, Drake May, Marvin Harrison type of player, plus a Troy Franklin, Xavier Worthy type of player, plus another Xavier Worthy, Troy Franklin type of player, having three of those guys in a best ball league just feels like it's going to be a lot better for you than the one Jahmyr Chase.
Yeah, because for all you know, one of those guys could be a Tank Dell. So
exactly. And you just want more shots. And so for me, you love Jahmyr Chase. I think when you see Jahmyr Chase in your inbox, you say, damn, I want Jahmyr Chase on my team. But I think in this particular circumstance, you're better off with the draft picks.
Yeah.
Sounds like Johnny says he agrees. So I think we're all on the same page here. So appreciate you, Johnny, for submitting that and being in the Discord. Means a lot. Moving on to our next pick here. Question 7. This is submitted via Jack from X over on Twitter. In fact, I've been trying to link you up with Jack. So you need to get in contact with Jack because you guys can talk some WWE wrestling.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to link with Jack. Definitely.
All right. But he says he needs help in this circumstance. He says somebody has offered him Jahmyr Chase for Kyren Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown. This is a 16-team league, PPR, Superflex. He said he's stacked, but he has no depth. He said he ended up turning it down. Just wants us to make him feel a little bit better about this. AKA, was it a good call to decline the trade?
Can't do that, Jack. Can't do it. Can't make you feel better because I think you should have took Jahmyr. Like, what's better than being stacked? Being more stacked. Like, I mean, here's my logic, and I think Andrew agrees with me on this. Running backs are whatever. Kyren Williams, he had an awesome season last season. That was last season. You never know a running back, anything can happen. So I'm looking at this as Amon-Ra St. Brown for Jahmyr Chase. And I'm sorry, man. I want to add Jahmyr to this team. This already stacked team. I want to make this team even more stacked.
And this is where I'm going to come in and disagree with you. I'm just kidding. Yes, it is where I'm going to disagree with you. But I did write in my notes here. I said, for me, the key indicator in this for me, and the reason why I'm leaning this way, obviously, if I can send my Kyren Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown in a normal 10 or 12 team league for Jahmyr Chase, I'll probably do it. In fact, I'm probably going to ask the Jahmyr guy to throw me like something on top, like a second round pick, but I'll probably do it. But to me, the key point is that it is a 16-team league. I just think in those 16-team leagues, your depth is so much more important. And he says he already doesn't have a lot of depth. He doesn't have really any depth right now anyways. So I think slimming that down and really dwindling out that depth could be dangerous for your team, especially in a 16-team league when we know like the fantasy football season, there's going to be injuries and things like that happen. You don't want to be fielding a lineup of A.T. Perry as your wide receiver 2 because Ja'Marr Chase got hurt. Like, you don't want to do that. So I think because it is a lineup league, 16-team league, I'm just going to go with the Amon-Ra, St. Brown, and Kyren Williams side. And the reason why I say that is because I think Amon-Ra, St. Brown, even though he is my wide receiver 4 in Dynasty right now, and Ja'Marr Chase is my wide receiver 2, I think they are in the same tier. So being in the same tier of wide receiver and still having Kyren Williams, even though we don't, really feel super confident that he's a running back, but we're never going to feel confident about a running back, really. So I just think I'd rather have the 2 players. I think the depth is what I would prefer in this type of situation in a 16-team league. So I think he made the right choice turning it down. But you feel like he should have got Jahmyr.
Here's what I'm thinking. And I don't think either one of us have thought of this. Ja'Marr Chase is hands down 1B to 1A in the wide receiver room. He said his lineup is stacked. Why am I not receiving Ja'Marr Chase and trading whoever the lesser wide receiver is for 2 other pieces? Like, why am I not doing that? Like, so I would basically take one of the best wide receivers in the league and trade a lesser part for another part and another piece. Like,
fair. Yeah, I mean, you could probably do that. Like I said, we don't really have the context. We don't know what's on his roster, but that's something you could explore. But I think for what it's worth, right now, without the other deal being in place, I don't mind you keeping Amon-Ra and Kyren. But I hear what you're saying. I think you could get a little creative there.
Yeah.
But all right, man, moving on. Question 8, submitted by Roll Sage via the Discord. He says, how would you balance being a commissioner and winning? I've found myself on the verge of becoming the most dominant super team imaginable, but don't want the league to become hostile or break down. I love my league. How do you deal with this, War?
You know what? I'm going to refrain from answering. I'm going to put myself on mute, and I'm going to let the person who has ruled over one of the leagues I'm in with an iron fist as the commissioner, who shows no mercy, I'm going to let him take it away.
All right. So speaking from experience here, in my notes, I wrote, fuck them. Just kidding. I mean, I really did write fuck them. Like I wrote that in my notes. So in reality, what the hell are we playing fantasy football for? We're playing fantasy football to win. That is the whole goddamn point. Just because you're the commissioner and you are the guy who set this up and collects league fees and does all that stuff doesn't mean that you shouldn't be able to win. Bro, I just wrote fuck them, fuck them, fuck them, fuck them. That's what I'm saying, dude. I don't care. Like, win your goddamn league. If you're going to be a super team, it's just going to be the way that it happens. Now, obviously, if you're like out here getting shady and collecting league fees and not collecting league fees from some people until, certain times, and then you're also collecting trades from them while you're don't do shady shit. But if you're playing legit and you're dominating, who gives a hell? Like, I just don't care. Like, it doesn't matter. And I will say this, speaking from experience, War, because you said I've ruled that league since the beginning of its inception, and I've dominated it all the way until this point. But I will say, what goes up must come down. And my team is definitely not as dominant as it was before. It's the wave of the ocean in Dynasty Fantasy Football. You will be good for a good amount of time, and then you will not be as good for a good amount of time. And you have to become a better Dynasty Fantasy Football player by rebuilding or retooling. And that's kind of what I'm doing right now in that league. I will say also, just because your team looks really good on paper and you feel like you're a super team and you feel like you're dominant, injuries, other things happen throughout the course of the season. And not always, I would say a majority of the time, the best team on paper is never actually the league champion at the end of the year. So until you start stacking these championships together, I wouldn't say you should be worried about that league folding. And at the end of the day, man, like if you're playing with people who want to play fantasy football with you, people who like the way that you rule your league, like people like the way that you've set it up and everything's going well, nobody's going to leave your league anyways. That's just the way that it's going to be. So don't worry about winning. Dynasty, fantasy football, all this stuff is meant to have fun. And there's nothing more fun than winning a goddamn championship. So don't sell yourself short and chase that championship. And if they get mad that you're a super team, tell them what I told them. Get better. Get better. Because somebody come take the head off the king. That's what you got to do. And so, anyways, Ward, do you have anything to add to what I've said?
Yeah, he's right. And I mean, the league we're in, I remember there was one day, I can't remember when, the league's been around for a while. It was like this big debate about like Andrew being too dominant.
There was like a trade.
We had a guy in there, he was just saying like, I don't want to play league fees every year just for Andrew to come in and win. So I mean, you're going to get that, and then what you do in that case, you say, okay, man, well, it was a pleasure having you, but I'm not going to lose on purpose so you can be happy. Like,
yeah, I mean, I think there was a point too where, and it makes it fun, man. And I will say too, like, you know, when you have that target on your head for winning a couple championships, like it's the same way. It's the same way that the NFL wants to knock off the Kansas City Chiefs right now. Like, it's the same way. Nobody's going to give them a handout in the trade room. You got to get a little bit creative. I remember there was an off season where like a couple people and some people were saying that it was collusion. I didn't care that much. It wasn't that deep. Like there was some people who said that they didn't want to trade with me because I was the champion. And I'm like, I don't think that's collusion. I understand it, but I had to get creative that year. So what I did is I made a couple sneaky moves. I was adding like little cheap pieces like I can't remember. I added a Cole Kmet and things like that. And it's like nothing really was like alarming to the public. But then Cole Kmet had a tight end one season. So like it was fine, but you got to get sneaky. You got to get creative. And I think it's fun. But at the end of the day, I will say, just to sum it up from the beginning, if they're mad that you keep winning and you're the commissioner, one, it's not your fault that you're winning and you're the commissioner. But two, fuck them. That's what I got to say. So anyways, moving on to question. Appreciate you, Rolly Sage. I appreciate you. And more than anything, just have fun with fantasy, dude. Don't let it get that deep. And don't worry about a league folding because you're winning. But with that being said, question 9, second to last question, War. We have from Joshua submitted via YouTube. And in short, the question is, how do I speed up my rebuild? But he put together a long message for us. He says it's a 12-team super flex, half PPR, half tight end premium. He has Anthony Richardson, Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jonathan Taylor, Devon Achane, Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, Nico Collins, Jordan Addison, Jaxon Smith-Njigba, Dalton Kincaid. And then the draft pick situation is crazy. 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 107, 203, 206. No 2025 picks, but then all of his picks in 2026. And he says, what do I do with these picks? I wanted to expedite a championship contention after a 2-year rebuild. If I draft 2 QBs, can I win a championship with A-Rich and 2 rookie quarterbacks? Or should I trade some of these picks for an elite QB like Hurts or Allen? That's really the question, the short question here. So I'll let you kind of start off this discourse and talk about what you feel after that long-winded question.
Bro, I know you're going to agree with me, but when you read that team off to me, I feel like that team's not that far away. For one, that rebuild is done. That rebuild's over.
After this draft class, you're done. Yeah.
Yeah. Like me personally, man, I would take the first half of my draft picks, and I would take as many of those top 7 studs as you have available. As many. So I'm talking about the Neighbors, the Odunze's, the Marvin Harrison, the Caleb's, the Brock Bauer. I would take as many of those guys as I can, and I would take the remainder of those first-round draft picks. After those top 7, after all those guys are gone, the remainder of those, I will use that to acquire strong veterans that I could put in my lineup. That's how I would go about it.
Yeah. I mean, I wrote in my notes, I said, I think the one part of the question that I don't like is how do I speed up my rebuild? Because I never recommend anybody speed or try and force themselves out of a rebuild. But you saying you want to speed it up, like I think like War said, your rebuild's done. Like you're pretty much to the point where like after this draft class, you should be a contending roster, at least if these picks are what we think they are. Now I will say, you can, using what you said, War, you can kind of diversify that risk because we know not every rookie is going to hit. For every Zay Flowers, there is a Quentin Johnston. That is just the way that this goes. For every CJ Stroud, there is a Will Levis or a Bryce Young. That is the way that this goes. So if you want to diversify those assets, maybe take a couple of them, the 107, maybe your 105, things like that. You want to go get some veterans. I'm not opposed to you going to do that. Now he says he wants to go get another quarterback. He's wondering if he should have 2 rookie quarterbacks or maybe he should have a veteran quarterback. I think the reality is we talked about it earlier in this episode when we were talking about Kyler Murray, but like you could trade one of those 104s, the 105s for a guy like Kyler Murray, and maybe it's not as expensive as going up and getting a Justin or not as expensive as going up and getting a guy like who did he say? Josh Allen. And Josh Allen's going to cost you a lot. It's an arm and a leg, but I think Kyler Murray can get you some production, and you have Anthony Richardson, and you could draft one rookie quarterback, a Jayden Daniels or a Drake Maye, and feel fine with that. Hell, you could get Caleb Williams and feel fine with that. So I think you're pretty much to the point where you should be in contention. I don't think you're speeding or rushing a rebuild at this point. I think your rebuilds, you're putting the icing on the cake at this point. But I do like the idea that you said, War, where take as many of those top 7 guys, and we've talked about them. We've listed them. I'll list them one more time just so everybody knows. It's Malik Neighbors, Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison Jr., Jayden Daniels, Drake Maye, Rome Odunze, Brock Bowers. Those are these 7 that we feel very, very confident in. You take as many of those guys as you can, and then with all of your other draft capital, trade that for veterans, undervalued veterans, Terry McLaurin's, Hollywood Browns, like things like that to fill out your roster and kind of make sure you're getting guaranteed production out of these players rather than just shooting on rookies. I think that sets you up really well. So that's kind of what I would do. And again, I don't think it's speeding you up out of a rebuild. I think you've pretty much finished. So this offseason is the one where you will. Yeah, it's a good situation, man. And to have that much draft capital, it's pretty crazy. Like a top 5 picks all loaded under your belt. Like, yeah, that's pretty nice. So
absolutely.
But yeah, and in short, I don't think you can't be a championship roster if you have 2 rookie quarterbacks. Like there's a world where Caleb Williams and Jayden Daniels combination is fine enough that you can win a championship. Like that's not really a worry for me, but I do like the idea of maybe going and getting a veteran that we know for sure that they're going to be good.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Anyways, last question here on the docket tonight. And I appreciate everybody who's still here. If you're still with us, throw something in the chat, man. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us. But this is submitted by Shoehorn O'Plenty via the Discord. He says, what should I do with this team? The league trading is a little bit low. There's not a lot of trading in this league. But he says that he has the 106 in 2024. It's not his own pick. He made the playoffs and he lost in the second or in the round right before the championship. Says it's a 12-team super flex start 10, 2 tight end starters, tiered PPR. So that's a half point for the running back, a full point for the wide receiver, and a 1.5 PPR for the tight end. The room is QB room of Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, Bryce Young, Deshaun Watson. The running backs, Travis Etienne, Javonte Williams, James Cook. The wide receiver rooms are CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Waddle, Garrett Wilson, DK Metcalf, T. Higgins, Drake London, Quentin Johnston, and Dontavion Wicks. And then the tight ends, he has Trey McBride and Evan Engram. What should he be doing with that team? Is he top heavy in one position? What should he do with the 106? Generally, he's just looking for some direction here. What do you think, War?
Well, the first thing I'm doing is I'm making the decision of who do I want more or who do I like more between Deshaun Watson and Bryce Young. After I make that decision, I'm trading one of those guys, and I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm trading one of those guys for a running back. Because when I look at this team, that's the position that needs the most need desperately. And for 106, honestly, because you're not going to take a running back with that. I mean, not that high. Wide receiver, maybe
not in this class.
Not in this class. what I would really think about, and it's probably not going to be the case because of how your league is scoring system is set. Brock Bowers should probably be one of the highest. Might be going by 106, but if he's not, I'm taking him at 106, and I'm definitely trading one of those QBs for a running back.
Fair enough. I wrote in my notes that in general, at the question of what should I do with this team, I think this team's good. Like, it's not a bad team. I don't think you really need to go out and like force your way to fix a roster. I think fine tuning this is fine. And Johnny says he already has 2 tight ends. So I don't know if Brock Bowers, I mean, we'll see, but it is a tight end premium. I don't think adding a guy like Brock Bowers is a bad idea, but I will say what I wrote here is that I think if you're looking for ways to find a competitive edge, ways to upgrade this team without spending a bunch of money, and not spending a bunch of money, spending a bunch of capital. This is ideally what we're playing with. But I would say upgrade your quarterback too is an option. You may be taking Trevor Lawrence and one of those extra wide receivers we were talking about, a Drake London, a DK Metcalf, pairing them together and going and getting a Josh Allen type of wide or a quarterback could really give you a competitive edge, I think. And if you don't want to do that, that's fine. I think another thing that could add to this team, and I went the same route as you were, where I said, I think adding a veteran running back is probably a good idea. Like going and getting it sounds gross, but I think they're pretty affordable right now. They're pretty cheap. Going and getting a Joe Mixon or going and getting a James Conner type of running back, like I think you could get one of them for a 2nd round pick right now and add that to this roster. And I don't think that's a bad idea because he said he was the semifinals last year. Like this is a competitive team. This is a contending team. So adding a 2nd round pick into a deal to get you a running back that can produce this year, I don't think it's that bad of a deal. But I did say the 106 is probably a pick that I'm keeping with this roster at this point, unless somebody's willing to overpay me down the road once we get past the combine. But I would say grabbing a Brock Bowers or a Rome Odunze would be pretty ideal. And I think if you're looking at like a Rome Odunze, you could go trade a T. Higgins or a Drake London for what we've talked about already, and then just replace that wide receiver with Rome Odunze. Like you wouldn't lose anything at the wide receiver position. So that's probably what I would be doing. I see Roll in here. He says, dang, my question was up next in the Discord. Y'all have time for my question. I will say we don't have time for the question. And I will say also as well, these questions were preloaded. Everything had to be submitted like earlier today. So unfortunately, once we had already started recording this show, I didn't have time to create the graphics anymore. So Roll, the good news is for you that AMA questions channel in our Discord, we do answer those questions, at least one of those questions on every episode of Let's Talk Dynasty moving forward. So your question, we will answer on next week's episode, guaranteed. I'll guarantee it for you right now. We'll answer that on next week's, unless you want it answered quickly, and then I can reply to your question in chat in the Discord. But we don't have time on today's show. But with that being said, War, what do we got going on? I guess nothing really, right? It's just the NFL Combine coming up next week. We got another show next week.
Big week.
I think on our show docket, I have our show docket right here. Let me just try and see really quickly what our next episode is. It does look like our next episode is our next episode, everybody, is a trade review show. So make sure if you are in that Discord, if you're watching this and you're not in that Discord, go join the free Discord. It is linked in the description. Submit Dynasty Fantasy Football trades that you have made this month, in the month of February. I want to see those trades that you guys have made. We will review them on our next episode, talk about what we like, what we don't like, who won, who didn't win, and all the other processes behind the Dynasty trades. So go submit those Dynasty Fantasy Football trades in the Discord for next week's episode. But I will say that is everything we have today. Make sure you guys hit that like button for us on the way out. It is the best free way to show our channel some support. So make sure you're hitting that like button for me. It takes you about 2 seconds. I promise. It doesn't take longer than that. Also, make sure you're hitting the subscribe button, the notification bell, all the other stuff to make sure you catch our videos when they do come out. Last but not least, War, let them know what you got going on over on your channel.
Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, man. It's WrestleMania season, baby. We just had Elimination Chamber, and we're over there talking about it on the Crimson Mass Show. The the Crimson Mask Show. Come follow us. You know, The Rock is back. The Rock is back. So even if you're a casual fan who don't watch week to week, just know that we have one of the greatest wrestlers of all time coming back to grace our screens, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about all the twists and turns that are leading you down the path on the road to WrestleMania.
Yes, sir. So if you guys like WWE, you want to support War outside of Let's Talk Dynasty. I know you guys support War over here on Let's Talk Dynasty, but you want to support them outside of it over on the Crimson Mask. You like wrestling, go do that. Go subscribe to the Crimson Mask. That will really help them out. But with all that being said, guys, we will see you on next episode. Trade reviews. So get those trades in. But until then, guys, we'll see you later. Peace out.